Mr. Yamakita, please take it from here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can I start? Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this distinguished gathering. I would like to begin with a brief introduction to the JTB Group. Founded as the Japan Tourist Bureau, JTB began with a mission to welcome foreign visitors to Japan with omotenashi, our unique spirit of hospitality. Over the past century, we've evolved into a global company that creates meaningful human connections. Today, we deliver value through integrated tourism and solution services, ranging from tour operations to digital and financial innovation, supporting individuals, businesses, and society. In 2026, we will celebrate the 15th anniversary of Japan-Australia Basic Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation, a milestone that reflects the enduring relationship between nations, built on mutual respect and people-to-people exchange. Our connection with Australia began even earlier. In 1962, JTB opened its overseas office in Sydney, marking a commitment to international exchange and recognition of the growing ties between our countries. We've proudly supported this relationship ever since. At JTB, we believe tourism is a powerful tool for cultural diplomacy. Guided by our principle of connect, create, and contribute, we aim to build bridges between cultures and foster empathy. For over a century, we've created experiences that go beyond sightseeing, experiences that build trust, deep understanding, and inspire change. Tourism is not just about visiting new places. It's about unlocking opportunities for connection, creativity, and shared growth. The true value of tourism lies in the unexpected insights gained when we stop outside the familiar. These moments shift our perspectives and quietly challenge our assumptions. Importantly, the impact of tourism continues after the journey ends. The insight we gain shape how we live, how we value, and how we engage with the world. Travel can inspire changes in attitude, behavior, and purpose. In this way, tourism opens doors to new ideas and possibilities. We believe destinations should collaborate with businesses and creative partners to design experiences that respect local culture and look toward the future. Tourism, at its best, supports communities, brings pride to everybody's life, and helps both locals and visitors grow together. A great example is our initiative in Brisbane, which we developed a summer camp program in collaboration with local communities. Japanese students engaged with Australian peers to explore the UN Sustainable Development Goals, innovation, and intellectual properties. We believe this a great example was it's a meaningful educational exchange that reflects our vision of tourism as a catalyst for global awareness and mutual growth. Looking ahead, we must support youth-led exchanges. It is our responsibility to help today's teenagers become thoughtful, globally minded leaders. Their connections will become the cultural bridges of tomorrow. JTB also supports corporate clients through My Services and contribute to cultural and sporting events, with Australia hosting the Rugby World Cup in 2027 and the Summer Olympics and Paralympics in Brisbane in 2032. We see new opportunities for cultural exchange and thematic tourism. Together, Japan and Australia can lead the Asia-Pacific in advancing cultural diplomacy through tourism, promoting sustainability, creativity, and cooperation for building the next 50 years of youth collaboration and shared leadership. I look forward to hearing the panelists' insights on cultural diplomacy. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yamakita, joining us from Tokyo. Before we begin the panel discussion, I would like to once again introduce Mr. Toshiro Maruyama, who will be joining us online today. By the way, have you noticed the robot in the venue? This is Orihime, a remotely operated communication robot that has been connecting Mr. Maruyama in Japan with us here in the room. Orihime is equipped with a camera, microphone, and speaker. Through the internet, Mr. Maruyama has been able to operate and observe our conversation. With that, I would like to leave to Natsuko-san to moderate this session. Thank you, Natsuko-san.
Thank you very much, Takahashi-san. As just introduced, my name is Natsuko Ogawa and I'm the chair of the Australia-Japan Foundation. It's my great honour to be chairing or moderating this first cultural diplomacy panel, and I thank the Nikkei for the initiative to introduce this new panel at an important time, as other speakers have noted today, as we look forward to the 50th anniversary of the basic treaty for friendship and cooperation between Japan and Australia next year. It's a great time to be gaining momentum or building momentum in our relationship. So thank you very much for that opportunity. I'd like to start, as is traditional and as others have done, by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I was very recently fortunate to be able to participate in First Nations Week at the Osaka Expo 2 weeks ago, and I was part of the delegation of a number of First Nations people and their allies who were able to spend some very fruitful time together. The Osaka Expo, again, has been mentioned by a number of other people today. It's 2 months, I think, left to go at the Expo. It is another fantastic example of how simply bringing people together, like-minded people together in one place from around the world can actually create an enormous amount of hope and momentum, support around initiatives to hopefully change the world for a better place. So I wanted to make that comment as we sort of move into this panel session. So today we have a very diverse group of panellists, which created some interesting challenges for us in thinking about how to bring everyone together and to have a great discussion. And I know that we will have a great discussion because each of the panellists has got some wonderful things to share with us. I want to start, though, with having had that really terrific keynote from Yamakita-san with our special guest from Hakuba village in Japan, Maruyama-san, Mayor Maruyama, who was going to join us fully through Oli, but is actually now joining us online, as is probably a little bit more usual. And I'd like to ask Maruyama-san to start us off by talking to us a little bit about his sort of connection with Australia and the really incredible contribution, I think, that Australian tourists have made to his part of the world in the last few years. We did hear earlier today that tourism numbers from Australia to Japan has now exceeded 1 million in the last year, and many of them will have been going to Hakuba. So I'm going to hand over to Maruyama-san to kick us off with our panel discussion. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I'm Toshiro Maruyama, the mayor of Hakuba. It's so nice to see all of you today. So actually, I watched this conference from around noon through the ORI. So it's a fantastic event. I'm very happy to join in this event. So first of all, I think, as you may know, I'd like to introduce our villages. Hakuba is one of the main venue of Nagano Winter Olympic Games in 1998 and popular as beautiful mountain or fresh powder snow. And recently, lots of visitors coming to here for ski or snowboarding. But in Japan, around until 1995, we have a ski boom. Ski was very popular. But after that, in Japan, economic down, then ski boom ended. Then around from 20 years ago, visitors from overseas, especially Australian, started to come to Hakuba for ski or snowboarding. Thanks to that, our villages made comeback as a popular resort. On the other hand, along with increased international visitors, cultural difference impacted on our local residents' life. To create a comfortable resort for both residents and visitors, we decided to create an ordinance of manner and rules to contribute good behavior and encourage each understanding. So the ordinance made 10 years ago, it includes banned drinking alcohol on the street or skiing on the road or doing fireworks at late night. And then now 10 years passed, a new issue increased. For example, dangerous driving on the snowy road or graffiti or put the stickers on a public property or local private one. So our village now trying to update the ordinance to respect our, to more encourage respect our local root or culture. So now we try to add the new issue on the ordinance and also make a penalty. But our goal is create a comfortable resort for everyone. So I hope both locals and visitors understand this rule and follow the ordinance.
Thank you very much, Maruyama-san. And I think that is a really good point that when you're trying to promote tourism, that both the sort of receiving side of the visitors and those who are visiting obviously need to be cognizant of cultural differences and to adapt to create a better environment for everybody. And it does remind me a little of how the tourism sector, I guess, in Australia developed back in the 80s, I think, or maybe earlier, where obviously the Gold Coast and places like that became very popular destinations for Japanese tourists. And so the local people had to actually adapt to create an environment that would be enjoyable for those tourists, including building up language and cultural capability, which I dare say is actually where many people who love the Australia-Japan relationship today have actually originated from. That sort of back in those days in welcoming people from Japan. Tom, in your work at the JTB Tourism Research Consulting area, and I know you also teach in relation to this subject, what are your thoughts or comments around the importance of the cultural experience and how to sort of, make that better.
Thank you very much, Ogawa-san. It's a pleasure to be here. Just to give you a little bit of sense about my company and myself, I'm a chief consultant at JTB Tourism Research and Consulting Company, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of JTB Group. So what we do is basically two separate things, but it's the same thing, but separate areas of support in our research and consulting. The first thing that we do is we provide a total in-house research and consulting support for the headquarters team to support for product development, market research, and strategic development. That is in-house research support. And we also provide external client support for NTOs, we call them National Tourism Organizations, or Destination Management Organizations, who are interested in attracting Japanese travelers to their destinations. So we provide them a lot of research and consultancy support. One of those few clients that we had in Australia, for instance, was a Queensland state that they very much interested in keep attracting Japanese travelers. But I think you can imagine how tough it is to understand Japanese consumer behavior. So they kind of ask us to do such in-custom research for them to have more direct marketing and promotion approach. So that is from an outbound perspective. We also do in my team a bunch of research on inbound tourism. As you know now, inbound to Japan is quite booming, right? The outbound is still struggling, that we are still short of 35% compared to the 2019 level. But the inbound has been already surpassed 2019 level, and we are reaching close to 116%. So that is quite booming, and a lot of business is happening compared to even 2019 level. So we provide a lot of research and consultancy for those people interested in investing in Japan, and also for different tourism stakeholders. So coming to your question about the impact of cultural tourism, I would say one of the main fundamental reasons why people travel today is, I think, culture. Culture, it is much more important than ever before that people would like to experience at the destination, as it's getting more attention, and a lot of destinations are actually leveraging on this, and they do promotion, and they do a lot of marketing activities surrounding on the culture that we have. But to me, I think the culture is actually doing much more benefit than the economic value it has. It's also having the topic that we have, it is cultural diplomacy. It creates more soft power for the destination, right? So using culture, you just don't really too much depend on economic value of it, but you can actually use it as a soft power. And you can see Australia, for instance, Tourism Australia is doing a lot of campaigns in different destinations to promote Australia from cultural perspective, from indigenous communities perspective. So those are kind of providing more soft power for the destination or for Australia as a whole. And in Japan, not only promotion, but also it's given more soft power perspective of a policy approach. The government is having a wonderful policy approach in terms of using culture as a soft power or as a diplomacy. There is an initiative called Cool Japan. Cool Japan is really one of the most amazing or interesting kind of initiatives the Japanese government introduced as a policy, and it is the sense of promoting or exporting culture through it could be manga or anime or different cultures. So that's no wonder that a lot of Australians interested in studying Japanese, and also getting much more interest in traveling to Australia as well, to Japan as well. So I think to me, culture is having more value than economic perspective. It's also creating more soft power and cultural diplomacy.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that Australia probably still has a bit of work to do to broaden out its image internationally, from furry animals and beautiful beaches. Again, the Osaka Expo, our Australia Pavilion does have a koala and a kangaroo and an emu, and they are very cute. However, importantly, the whole foundation of the pavilion is really to promote Indigenous peoples and the wisdom that they can teach us. So actually, we are starting to project ourselves more in that way by bringing in other parts of Australian culture that we'd like the world to know about. Tokue-san, you have an absolutely fascinating background as a zoologist. You're Japanese, but you've lived overseas for a lot of your life, particularly in Southeast Asia. And you have come to Australia on a couple of occasions. You've, through people-to-people connections, found your way here, not as a tourist, but actually to conduct research as part of your PhD studies on the behaviour of birds on Heron Island. Could you please talk to us a little bit about your experience and what you learned from that?
Thank you very much for the introduction, and maybe I will do a bit of my self-introduction as well. So I am representing Lebanese Singapore right now as a business person, but as a trainee. I was trained as a behavioral researcher. And as Ogawa-san was just mentioning, I did my research in Australia. And I would like to thank Australia for giving me this opportunity to conduct our research and also to have an opportunity to have a world first discovery in Darwin, Australia. As much as I would like to talk about that, it's gonna take the whole thing. So I will take it to aside. As a researcher, I worked in Northern Territory as well as in New South Wales. Heron Island, I went there as a student when I was studying in Australia, and it was an opportunity for me to see how tourism can coexist with research. On Heron Island, I think some of you already know that half of the island is for tourism, the other half is for the researcher. And I was sleeping on those bunk beds on the other side of the island, where the other parties on the resort side was, lying on the poolside and having party. It is a real nice environment. It made me think about exposure to research environment is important, but we cannot bring people into researcher field that often. But by having in this environment, it made it slightly easier. Yet there were also some conflicts there because there's a sea turtle who lays eggs in the island. Unfortunately, in the past, moon was the only light that they will have. So when the turtle hatch, they will naturally go to the sea because it's reflecting on the ocean surface. But now that we have a resort, it's forcing turtles to go inside the island, which makes it difficult. I'm not trying to criticize or anything like that. It's just a fact that is happening. How can we do is some of the things that as a researcher and then also a person who turned business person after having a training as a researcher, I would like to see how we can bring those sustainability and world type of issues, how can we address those through culture and then also understanding of different interests that all of us have. I should probably keep it at that.
Okay, and then maybe Tokue-san, we'll probably come back later to actually talk to you a little bit about technology because Ollie is your guest, or you've brought Ollie to our to this forum. So I'll come back to that. But I did want to just stay on the topic of balancing, I guess, competing objectives. And I think that Kurahashi-san, as the representative of Japan-Australia LNG MIMI, so Mitsubishi Mitsui joint venture, has been talked about already today, foundation investor in the North West Shelf project, which is obviously a historically highly significant project for the development of LNG in Australia. But it's also located near the Murujuga rock art, which is culturally significant and in fact was listed by UNESCO in the World Heritage listing just about a month ago, I think, Kurahashi-san. So would you like to perhaps just tell us a little bit about, the MIMI, I guess, experience with that and your views in relation to those competing interests?
Yes, thank you very much, Ogawa-san's kind introduction. And MIMI is now participating in two big gas projects in Australia. The first one is North West Shelf. which starts from 1989, and we already have over 35 years production. We are producing LNG, it's 15 million ton per year. It's equivalent to 1/3 of electricity demand in Tokyo metropolitan area. So it's a significant project and contributing to energy security in Japan. And also, we are making tax and royalty payment over 40 billion since our first production to Australia, and we are making support for infrastructure development in Karasa area over $300 million since startup of our project. 20 years ago, there was nothing in Karasa. But recently, in the city of Karasa, we have 3 big supermarkets and movie theater and conference center and a very beautiful international airport. And our project, we are very proud that our project made such a contribution to development of local cities. Also, we are paying utmost our attention to indigenous people, and especially we are taking all of measures to protect environment in such areas. So as Natsuko-san mentioned now, recently rock art in Karasa was nominated as UNESCO Heritage, and it's I believe it will be one of very interesting and exciting sightseeing place for Japanese people from now on. So we are trying our best to protect such very, very precious assets as well.
Yes, and I believe the in order to get the rock art listed, that many submissions had to be made around the care that was being taken to ensure that the rock art was not impacted by the operations near the site. My recent experience, as I mentioned, I was at the expo recently, actually with my First Nations colleague, and we met with a number of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people during our time, and I was just stunned at the treasure actually that the First Nations people represent to this country that I'm afraid that many of us are not aware of and are only just starting to understand. We do have the privilege of the oldest continuous societies in the world right here in Australia, 65,000 years plus of continuous cultural history. So something that I hope that JTB and others will, and Nikkei will publicise more, and frankly something that Australians actually should be aware of more as well, but certainly something that Japan can certainly contribute to and help to make known in the world. So maybe just going from the ancient past to the future and coming back to technology, I was reflecting on the last few years of really the world and tourism and the impact of COVID, how Japan and Australia, movement between the countries had obviously stopped and then has now rebounded so strongly. But during COVID, obviously, we had a lot of technology solutions that came in to help connect us, and I think Tokue-san, your Ollie is another example of actually technology that's trying to help to connect people who would otherwise not be able to connect. But Tom, perhaps from your sort of strategy perspective, how do you see technology changing tourism, or how have you seen it change it, and do you think it will continue to have an impact going forward?
Yeah, I mean, technology has been really shaping the travel industry very heavily, and as you just mentioned right now, especially during the COVID time, we've had a lot of technology solutions being developed because the innovators had much more time relatively than before because of the COVID time. So a lot of smart technologies happened during the COVID hit time. But even today, as we speak, there's a lot of technologies, has been developed right before traveling phase all the way until, during the travel or during the trip, kind of the consumer funnel. So I would say it has been really shaping it, that it's making it more seamless and frictionless, and it has been really supportive for the consumers, and it gives them more flexibility, more choices in the travel industry. And to mention a few, AI, generative AI, VR, chatbots, all those kind of technologies has been, including blockchain. It was also been introduced into the travel and tourism industry, and it gives a lot of flexibility over the almost over the last 10 years. But if you ask me if this technology will totally replace the physical travel, I would say no. I don't really agree to the point that technology will totally substitute the physical travel the way that we had during the COVID time. I don't know if you remember, a couple of destinations developed a virtual reality experience so people can actually experience the destination while they're at home. And there was this research conducted right after the COVID, and I think majority of the consumers say they hate it, they don't like it, and they don't want to do it. So you can tell that the reason is because tourism is a human touch industry, that you need the interaction with the people, you need the interaction with the community. So the physically traveling at the destination is quite important, and I don't think this will change, but the technology will be there to help and to make it more seamless. But don't get me wrong, that actually, of course, such kind of virtual reality travel might be necessary for people who are not physically able to travel, right? So if you have physical disability, or for us, some reason, if you're not able to travel, then such technologies will definitely help out. But otherwise, people will keep, looking for the cultural interaction physically.
And I think I was really obviously very happy to hear when visitors to Australia say how much they love it. But that brought home to me too on the previous panel, hearing from a couple of our recent new visitors to Australia saying how much they loved it, and the impact of spending just a few days here had on them is really something. So I wonder if I can then ask Tokue-san if you would like to sort of jump in on that subject.
Thank you very much. And maybe if I share a bit about the company itself as well, Lebanese is a group of companies with the vision of advancing science and technology for global happiness. So we pretty much do everything from education all the way to startup innovation together with big companies. And this ORI is one of the technology we met founders who wanted to eliminate loneliness from the world. The means to do it, he decided to create this ORI robot. Yes, it would be best if you can be there physically to actually greet other person, but if you can be inside the robot and communicate to the people, that's halfway between. It's meet in the middle type of thing where you can do that. And there's also other technology that has came out called Tonari, which means neighbor or next to you in Japanese. And this is a big screen which allows you to talk to a person through the screen, even if you are separated by distance. This is also a way for people to be able to communicate and be able to feel connected utilizing technology. So I think this having a hybrid of analog and digital would help us be able to experience something a bit beyond, and also by hopefully we continue to do the physical as well so that we can have those serendipitous moments as well.
Thank you. Now, one other thing I just wanted to touch on that was interesting, and I'll come back to you, Tokue-san, but from the last session, there were some references to scientists communicating with non-scientists and the challenge of that. So not just cultural difference challenges, but actual sort of areas of expertise sort of challenges. I'll come back to you on that one, but I did actually want to turn back to Maruyama-san if he can come back on to the screen. But you did sort of talk to us a little bit around the cultural differences causing tension in your village and the initiatives that you're undertaking to try and improve that through implementing ordinances. But are there other initiatives that you can give to us as examples of work you're doing to sort of bridge the gap in terms of the cultural understanding or lack of cultural understanding between tourists and locals accepting the tourists?
So there's many things that we're doing, but I think originally everybody wants to enjoy our town, and also our local people would like to more conversation or touch with the visitors. But sometimes the language is different and feel scary and so on. That time our villages has some education is one of our key points. So because already we have a lot of the residents sometimes from overseas, and also sometimes the one of the parents is speak the local language, original language is English and so on. The time that our junior high school or high school already have some English course, and that time we also educate different culture, what is that, and so on. And one good example is Hakuba High School project. About 10 years ago, Hakuba High School have a crisis of the surviving because reduced their student numbers. That time, we started field works that students go to the Tourist Information Center to conversation with the overseas tourists in English. It's good for the practice English for them and also understand the culture of each other. After that, Hakuba High School succeed to create a new course, the name of the International Tourism Courses. So then the high school succeed to accept a student from all over Japan, and now is one of the most popular high school in Nagano Prefecture. Then still that program is going. So one of the kind of like a solution, I think.
Thank you. And one other point that we discussed, I think, when we were preparing for this session was where so language can be a barrier, but often something like the arts can actually bridge that gap between those who kind of speak English or don't speak English or don't speak Japanese. And I think, Maruyama-san, you had some really interesting observations around, I suppose, some points to think about when trying to introduce your culture through the arts to, for example, if an Australian artist or musician wanted to come to Hakuba and to spread the word around, their culture, you had some interesting thoughts around, how that might be best received.
So it's a little bit hard speaking English, sorry. So, but that event is very, so excited one, and also lots of the people come to Hakuba. But that one of the event is owned by Australians and customer mainly for Australian. That is local people a little bit feel like scary and so cannot understand what's happening. So that time we need more, the create each other together, some of the more each culture mix and each understanding, and we create that together. The event is much better in the future, I think.
Yeah, I think that's. I wanted to have you speak to that point, and thank you, Maruyama-san, for doing that, because I do think that again we talked a lot about collaboration today. But that is an important part of, I guess, building those bridges between people from different backgrounds and cultures to feel comfortable with each other, that you're not just, imposing or saying you need to get used to the way that we do things, but rather that we find a way that actually is something different that both can enjoy. So Tokue-san, I'm going to come back to you again on scientists and non-scientists. What are you doing to bridge that gap between people who aren't even just speaking the same language, kind of, but not really?
So what we do and what we call those activities of trying to bridge different people, we call it science bridge communication. And maybe some of you are thinking, oh, I know about science communication. It's about talking about subject of science, easy to understand manner, so that everybody understands. That's part of it. Science bridge communication, we are referring science as more of a way of thinking or philosophy. So how do we understand the root of things? And in order to bridge different people who would like to do something together, but at that moment, the foundation is at a different level. So we need to make sure that the foundation is at the same level so that they can actually be talking to each other, either in English or Japanese or whatever language that they are speaking in. And many times we forget, because we are using the tool language and we are using the same tool, we assume we understand each other. But for this cultural diplomacy to truly happen, I believe those science bridge communication, which may sound like, oh, it's only for scientists. However, I think for this new tourism to come onto the level of what we would like to create, I think this concept may be something that we can also utilize.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful because I think what we're drawing out here on this panel is that there are lots of differences that kind of get in the way of people being able to do things together. And I think to your point again, Tom, it's the physically people coming together and then actually doing something together. So again, sort of borrowing the things that came out of the innovation panel that then continue to build those relationships. And sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes actually it's really difficult. But the reward you get from actually working through that and gaining that understanding is immeasurable. Kurahashi-san, I'd like you to probably bring us back now to connecting with business, because at the end of the day, culture is culture, and it has its own value. But obviously, it's had a huge amount of economic impact on Australia, and obviously would love to see it continue to do that. But any thoughts, I guess, with your commercial hat on from that perspective?
Thank you. We are now enjoying very, very good relationship between Australia and Japan. So our business is based upon such a very historically good relationship between Australia and Japan. And in order to further strengthen this very good relationship and friendship, both business and cultural interaction through tourism or through this type of new technology, through education should be very important and indispensable. So for actually today I'm joining this panel from business sector. However, in order to make success in business, today, I understand, such mutual understanding and cultural interaction should be more and more important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've got only a couple of minutes left, so I might just make some closing remarks. Takashi-san, is that okay? So I think that this has been a really, from my perspective, really interesting discussion. It has brought in a number of different sort of ways of thinking, which I think is fascinating. The takeouts from my perspective are that while technology will facilitate more and more people-to-people connections, there is nothing that matches the impact of people travelling to each other's countries and actually doing things together, experiencing things together, spending time with each other to learn more about each other and their cultures. And tourism that focuses on accessible and collaborative cultural experiences and creating bridges for better communications and understanding are key to the future, I think. And I can see a lot of potential, particularly for moving into new areas that we haven't explored before together, including our First Nations culture in both Australia and Japan. Japan also has the Ainu people and its own proud Indigenous culture. I'd like to finish by thanking the panellists for their very significant contributions. From an Australia-Japan Foundation perspective, I'm truly excited about the opportunity that next year will bring, not only in terms of looking back at the last 50 years to see how far we've come, but as we can see today, there are many, many new opportunities for the two countries. And what we'd really like to see is a springboarding, I guess, to the next generation. Again, some really great discussions today around the next gen and youth. I think from Yamakita-san right at the start, taking it back to that, really want to encourage the future generations to get involved in the relationship and really derive the rewards and the joy that we've all had over the last few years with this relationship. So I'll finish with those works, and please thank our illustrious panel for their fascinating inputs.
Thank you, Natsuko-san, and all the panelists.